Playing his 100th senior game in the NPLMVIC Victoria.
And welcome here to Lakeside Stadium. It's Arthur Akratides and Stefan Georgic with you this evening for a great game of football here. A very important game for both sides, languishing last and second or third last, depending on results after today. And both teams needing a victory here today. The lineups for today: South Melbourne, number 1, Harvey Lopez. Number 3, Jordan Lampard. Number 4, Marko Jankovic. Number 6, Lucas Inglesi. Number 88, Charlie Leach. Number 10, George Mells, and congratulations to his 100th game today. Number 27, Jack Painter-Andrews. Number 45, Samuel Franco. Number 23, Evan Morgan. And number 24, Neha Bonata, who comes back in the lineup. And Stefan, the lineup for Port Melbourne.
That's definitely right. Good afternoon, everybody. The lineup for Port Melbourne: number 3, Owen McCloskey. Number 4, Riada Muyet. Number 5, Oliver Yankolovsky. Number 6, Anthony Leben. Number 7, Delano Farrow. Number 8, Nicholas Dibb. Number 9, Aidan Brown. Number 11, the captain for the Port Melbourne Sharks, Liston Diaz. Number 12, Mitchell Trajchevsky. Number 19, Thomas Alessandrados. And number 23, the goalkeeper, Luka Romic.
And already there, you can see the intent by South Melbourne. They are charging down a ball, which Romic cleared straight into the South Melbourne player. Romic having an absolute blinder last week against Heidelberg, being named in the team of the week, and the youngster did quite well to try and help his side, as South Melbourne get the goal kick. And another great goalkeeper, probably very close to saying, if not, no doubt in my mind, Harvey Lopez, the best goalkeeper in the Victorian NPL. Absolutely brilliant keeper, and probably saved South Melbourne many a time here at this ground. Deep ball into the box. Lampard. Leach playing the ball forward, and Leach being an ex-Port Melbourne player, along with George Mells being an ex-Port Melbourne player. And some mixed feelings for some here today. And as I said, we've got a new coach for Port Melbourne, Max Gajdowski, just come into the picture. And congratulations to him, and good luck to him and the team for their future endeavours. He's got his work cut out for him, because Port Melbourne, as I said, languishing on the bottom of the NPL ladder on 7 points. as Mel's tries to get the ball away. Can't do so. Through ball in. A chance here for Port Melbourne! And what a finish! Fantastic goal! 1-0, and it looks like
Melbourne Sharks, number
it's
11, Liston Diaz.
Liston Diaz has come on and once again opened the scoring early for Port Melbourne Sharks. 2 minutes in. Stefan, what an opening.
I'll tell you what, that's as best of an opening as you need if you're the Port Melbourne Sharks. Listen, Diaz, that's his 4th goal of the season, Arthur, and it doesn't get any better than that. And South Melbourne's troubles are only just going to start getting even worse now. The nightmare at the moment in the early stage of this one continues. Last time out when these two teams played each other back in round 1, it was the South Melbourne who got a 1-0 win. This time round, very different stuff. Port Melbourne Sharks, the 1-0 lead early on. So, interesting stuff here if you are South Melbourne. How can they respond? The troubles that they've had all season, and it looks to be even more troubling at the moment. Port Melbourne with a big opening statement. That's their 25th goal that they've conceded so far this season. South Melbourne. And here come Port Melbourne again, trying to look to attack again. Inglese with Printer Andrews doing a great job at stopping that attack. And the referee just going to signal for a free kick here. I believe that is Port Melbourne. No, it's a throw-in. Apologies. Glad you could be with us here for this clash between these two sides, the halfway part of the season. And another crossing attempt was close. Farrell was in the back, couldn't quite get in there, and that ball will be booted out of here.
Yeah, as you said, Stefan, it's a start that Port Melbourne really, really wanted, and here they are again. A deep ball in the box. A little bit too deep, though. Mopped up. Leach couldn't get the ball away. Dib trying to find Pharaoh. Cleared away to safety. Mel's. Deep ball now is a chance for South Melbourne. 3-on-2. Getting numbers forward. Good work here on the far side. The ball in the box, and the goalkeeper decides to punch away, and I thought he could have caught that. Or maybe the ball was already out. I'm not too sure there, but a chance now for South Melbourne. Morgan did quite well to try and get that into the box, but it's out for the first corner of the game to South Melbourne. What an absolute beautiful evening for football here. Slight wind going to the right of screen. Curling ball. The chance. Headed down. And it was Leach who got the header, but sort of no direction in that header. Another ball in. Onside! Yankovic! And it was given offside in the end. And a chance there for South Melbourne. Port Melbourne can ill afford to rest on this 1-0 lead, because they will definitely find it very hard if they do that. But they've started the game on an excellent note, and you can't ask for more than that. Max Gajdowski will be a happy man. And Sinisa Kodzic, the new coach for South Melbourne, who's been at the helm for his second game now, other than a cup game, wouldn't be too happy with the way things have started. And let's not forget that legend of South Melbourne, Sam Putakidis, also assisting. No doubt will help South Melbourne try and get back to their winning ways pretty unlucky last week to not get something out of the game, but the Oakley Cannons won that game 2-1 with 2 penalties from Guest, one which he scored a rebound on and the other one which he disposed of, and 10 men. And in the end, South Melbourne lost that game to the Cannons, the champions. And now Port Melbourne with the free kick, another dangerous zone.
The second home game for South Melbourne in 2 consecutive weeks. And they're definitely not going to want to look to go down and out without a fight. Here comes a free kick again for Port Melbourne. Now we've got a corner coming up here. The first corner actually for Port Melbourne, the second of the game. Last time out when these two teams played against each other early on back in round 1, South Melbourne had 10 corners in that game. It was 0 corners actually for Port Melbourne, so the first corner for them against South Melbourne this year. The hand is up and the ball is going to be up again. Can't quite clear it in. It'll be kicked in the back by Alessandrados. Farah's in the back, along to fighting with him is Bernarda. And it'll be South Melbourne's ball here. So far, 8 minutes closing into 9 minutes in this game, and it was Port Melbourne with an early one. A lot earlier than what South Melbourne would have liked and possibly expected. Ball goes down the line. Nobody home then. And Romic is going to clear it off to Yankolovsky. Tried to go forwards inside, but couldn't quite. Aiden Brown making the start this week. Didn't quite make the start last week, so he's back in the lineup along with Nicholas Dibb. He's back in the lineup as well for the Port Melbourne Sharks. Ball going to be cleared onto this near side to Farah. Farah, who's been exceptional so far this season for the Sharks, and try and cross it in off to the far side. It's McCloskey who manages to keep it alive for the Sharks. Crossing in again. Farah around the back, and they're just going to wait for it, and it's South Melbourne's ball this time. South Melbourne have yet to have a win. Their last win came back in the second round. The only 2 wins that South Melbourne have had have been against the sides that have been sitting under them on the table, that being a 1-0 victory back in round 1 against Port Melbourne, and the following round, the 3-1 victory against the Melbourne Knights. And ever since then, they've been struggling to find the proper form that we're used to seeing South Melbourne being in. And here come Port Melbourne again. What can they do this time? Here's Farrow, throws it forwards to Brown. He was pushed right on the sideline there. Struggled to kick it back in. Pope. And here's Franco. He's going to clear it off to Printer Andrew. So far, still 1-0 here. And South Melbourne just trying to control the ball back again.
Yeah, a little messy there from South Melbourne. Port Melbourne taking it up to South Melbourne here. Doing quite well. Ball headed down to safety. Still, Mells pushes his ball forward. And the free kick given for the earlier challenge there in the air. And Port Melbourne getting back in numbers. They're playing a back three, apparently, trying to change things up a bit. Ball into the box, cleared away. And back heel. And a good ball running down the line. In danger again here. And luckily, the ball cut out just in the nick of time on the back post. Aidan Brown was lurking and almost found a way through. Again, the ball's been given away by South Melbourne, which has happened regularly this afternoon. Brown. He's got Farrow. Cuts it in. Still Brown! Oh, tell you what. There's a chance gone begging there. And you'd have to think that had Brown gone a little bit earlier, might have been 2-0. It wasn't to be. The challenge there cleared away for a corner, or for a throw-in, sorry. And lucky for South Melbourne that that was the case. I mean, we know that South Melbourne has had a lot of injuries, but slowly getting players back is very important for Kohadzic, the coach. And no doubt getting back Bernarda, very important. No doubt he probably won't play the full game, but getting time into him with a bit of experience will definitely help South Melbourne. The backdrop there of the good old South Melbourne football ground, the old heritage listed stand. Back in the day, I used to come here as a kid and watch South Melbourne play football here. And now, 40 years later, watching South Melbourne play the real football, as we call it, on a ground that is absolutely immaculate and a great grandstand and facilities here to boot. Stefan, have you experienced this ground before in a playing capacity?
Not in a playing capacity, no. I'm a former professional tennis player, so this is travelling around, seeing all these great stands here, especially all the football that Melbourne has to hold here, is quite truly a spectacle in itself, really. Seeing all the culture, especially in amongst all these clubs. And it's unbelievable facilities here as well. As you mentioned here, Lakeside Stadium, state-of-the-art facility. And with a team with such rich history like South Melbourne, only great things are going to come their way, and especially later on in the year, playing in the Australian Championship, the national second tier. They're going to be playing here against Sydney Olympic FC on Friday, the 10th of October. That'll be quite a spectacle to behold. I have no doubt that these stands, Arthur, will be absolutely jam-packed to the rafters. All the Souvlaki rolls will be being sold out. Back to the action, though. Here's Farrow. Closing in. He's got Leach behind him. Tried to get a through ball. Was Alessandrados to Diaz. The only goal scorer here so far. And the ball just being worked around here for South Melbourne. And it'll be Marko Jankovic, the captain. Samuel Franco, again, back in the lineup as well. Didn't make the start last week against the Cannons. Muyet, the former North Sunshine Eagles player, down at the moment in VPL 1. Joined Port Melbourne Sharks at the start of the season. It's actually one of the vital key players for North Sunshine in getting that promotion to VPL 1, but Bernarda, here already trying to make an impact back in his first game. Here's Muyet again. And the ball going to work its way back to Romic in goal. He's going to clear it out to Farrow. Ball going to be booted down to Diaz. Diaz tried to spot up forwards. He had a leading player in Aiden Brown, but it'll be called offside. But so far, Port Melbourne, they're looking a little bit etchy for another one. And what can South Melbourne do? How can South Melbourne respond? Printer Andrews goes down the line. Tried to go to Pope. And instead it'll be Printer Andrews again to throw it in. Here's Mells, directly in the centre of the pitch. Off to Lampard. Lampard thought about taking a boot, or was it a pass? Not quite sure. Here's Leach on this near side. Tried to go for it. Somewhat of a boot. Evans back off to Printer Andrews on that far side. Ball still kept in, however, here. Printer Andrews going to cross it in. And it was Rajchevsky who managed to get the header and clear the ball out of harm's way. Ball's still down. They're in a bit of a tussle. Referee won't call anything. Here's Liston Diaz, and the referee will signal an offside. Very, very etchy stuff here at the moment.
South Melbourne claiming that it should have been their free kick, but the referee allowed play to go on. He was going to give Port Melbourne the free kick. A chance now, the shot really wasteful there, Lampard. And taking a shot from 40 yards out really isn't what South Melbourne should be doing at this stage of the game. Port Melbourne moving the ball. Farrow, and that's a chance, an offside given. And that was pretty close and didn't look offside to my mind, but maybe the initial pass might have been just slightly off. I'm not too sure, but didn't look like that to the bare eye. But no doubt in my mind that Port Melbourne are playing the better football at the moment. South Melbourne really need to try and carve a way forward. Ball not really played on the deck, and referees allowed play on. And now he pulls up play. Looks like Bernarda, maybe. Yeah, it is Bernarda. Collected. Not too happy with the referee. Throw in taken. And then all of a sudden, Port Melbourne, a chance! It's in! What a tremendous goal! Fantastic stuff!
Goal for Melbourne. Listen, Diaz.
And that man again, Diaz, has made it 2-0, beating with pace to burn, rounding Lopez, and my lord, Port Melbourne, all of a sudden, 2-0 up, and Liston Diaz has absolutely turned this game on its head. Fantastic stuff, Stefan.
That's definitely right, Arthur. That's his 5th goal of the season so far. He scored his 4th earlier on, making a 1-0, now 2-0. That's his 5th goal of the season. He was equal momentarily with his teammate Thomas Alessandrados, and instead now, up he goes. He's a leading goal scorer for the Port Melbourne Sharks. The captain of the side, marching with his team proud. And just like that, it's the Port Melbourne Sharks in a very commanding position at the moment. But here comes South Melbourne and an offside call. And it was Bernarda who got an offside But South Melbourne, though, a little bit etchy here to try and get one on the board. And the nightmare gets even worse for South Melbourne at the moment. Arthur, you're probably not used to seeing South Melbourne be like this.
Well, I've got to tell you, it's a bit of a funny game for me because I've played for both these sides. So I love both these sides with great passion. So it hurts me to see both these sides in the position they're in. But being obviously a commentator here, and I've got to say I'm very impressed with the way the Sharks have dealt with this game, and they've caught South Melbourne on the break twice, and I just can't help but think they look so much more organised than they have been, and that's not to put anything down. It just looks like they've got a bit of a purpose. No doubt in my mind that John Markovsky had a hell of a lot of injuries to deal with himself when he was coaching this team, and it was pretty tough on him. And now that this new coach has come in, it's obviously rejuvenated the squad, and the proof is in the pudding. 23 minutes gone and 2-0.
And I think, Arthur, you can definitely say that they could have gone a little bit more had some of the offsides not been called. And the way that Port Melbourne are carrying on, they definitely look to possibly put themselves in a position to have even more on the board. South Melbourne being very, very stagnant here. Possibly comes another one, and it's cleaned up by Harvey Lopez, the goalkeeper. Last week, Port Melbourne Sharks, they gave a little bit of a scare to Heidelberg United. A 2-1 defeat at Olympic Village, and definitely using all that momentum that they had in that game out here at Lakeside. And at the moment, they're in a very, very commanding lead. Ball just being tipped around here at the moment in Glaze 8. Ball lost momentarily. Leban. Here's Lampard. One of the key players for South Melbourne, especially in that back line. Here's Jordan Lampard. Give it a boot. Very low crossing, couldn't quite find anybody. And here come possibly Port Melbourne again. Liston Diaz that time tried to set up his teammate in Aiden Brown. South Melbourne yet to find an answer for this Port Melbourne Sharks offense. South Melbourne, the worst ranked offense in the competition thus far, only scored 10 goals this season. 14 rounds in, only 10 goals. That's not really going to win you anything. And an offside call again, Liston Diaz. He's getting a little bit itchy at the moment with some of those calls, but 10 goals so far this season, Arthur, that's definitely not what you want, especially if you are a team like South Melbourne. Here's Yankovic, apologies. Off to Leach. Lampard back off again to Leach on this close side, this near side, I should say. Yankovic. Here's Leach again. Mel's went down. And here come possibly again Port Melbourne. Diaz, the captain, just going to slow down a little bit, crosses it over to Brown. Brown only just about keeps it in. He's got Yankovic for company. And instead it's Lampard managing to take the possession away. Still got somewhat of a press here, do Port Melbourne on South. And South Melbourne just trying to creep the ball up a little bit, but the ball just being intercepted everywhere at the moment. Mouillet doing a great job in the back line. Farrow tried to cross it in, and Harvey Lopez manages to get the hands on it. And what can South Melbourne do this time, Arthur?
They need to get a move on and start playing the ball on the deck a little more. They just seem to be airing the ball a little too much, and they're not that type of team. And that's where they're getting found out. And Port Melbourne are playing the ball over the top, catching the midfield and the defence out. But there's a chance here for South Melbourne. Lampard curling in the box, and great goalkeeping by the youngster Romic. Excellent work there. Chance again. Cleared away. 3-on-2 now. Lopez off his line because he could see that he doesn't want any balls played in the box. Ferro. Can he take a shot on goal? Ferro! And easily mopped up there by Lopez. He's been quite useful, Ferro, on that right-hand side. And, Lampard now. Chance to go forward. Leach needs to get into the game, Leach. Not the greatest ball there. Ball right across, and in the end, a free kick given. And McCloskey getting the free kick. Chance to go forward. Again, South Melbourne. And can he get in now? Good defending there, some quality defending. Trachevsky. Ball played forward. Chance now for Port Melbourne. And cut out just in the nick of time. Really seem a little lost, South Melbourne, at the moment. Trying to switch play. Referee saw that. Seemed like a little nudge, but wasn't malice in that. But free kick given now in a dangerous position for South Melbourne. Let's see what they can dig out here. And the midfield general, George Mells, on his 100th game in the NPL to take the free kick. Will he have a go, or will he squeeze that ball into the back post? It's a good ball in, and that's just over the bar. Romic looked like he was beaten, but a good effort there in the end. It's a little better from South Melbourne, Stefan.
Definitely some good signs if you are a South Melbourne supporter. Signs of life here, especially. They're going to need it after being down 2-0 at the moment. The scoreline doesn't look to be in their favour, and neither is this bloke with the ball. Oh, and a close one there from the captain, Liston Diaz. He's hunting for his 6th one of the season. And boy, would have it come in very, very incredible fashion there with that one. Liston Diaz, the former Avondale player, at the moment, making a name for himself at the moment. He was selected for the Team of the Week back in round 12 this season. Played 17 games for Avondale last season, scored 4 goals as well. And at the moment, he's beaten his record that he set last season. He's on 5. And here come South Melbourne Lampard. Off to Leach. Ball just being tipped around here at the moment for South Melbourne. And the ball just going to be stopped. So a free kick coming up here for the Sharks. And the ball going to be booted forwards. Here comes Dibb. And the ball going to be kicked out of harm's way by Samuel Franco. Samuel Franco, who has played 3 games thus far. His 4th game here tonight for South Melbourne this season. Here's Farrow to throw it in. Off to Dibb, in the direction of Dibb. And we got a corner coming up here for Port Melbourne. So South Melbourne aren't going to like this. If Port Melbourne knock this one in, it'll be a 3-0 lead for South Melbourne. And 3's been the number that almost South Melbourne have reluctantly given up in a lot of their defeats here this season. Here's Dibb. Low ball cross. Down low was Liston Diaz, who tried to kick it back in but couldn't. Here's Leach. Just going to progress the ball forwards. Can't quite manage to get the ball kicked off to Bernarda. And it'll be Port Melbourne's ball again. So Port Melbourne with promising stuff at the moment. The bottom of the table team is giving South Melbourne, the Oceania Club of the Century, a run for their money at the moment. And it'll be Harvey Lopez to collect it and throw it in for South Melbourne on that far side. Painter Andrews will be crossed in. Here's Leach coming in around the back, and it's the youngster Luka Romic managing to collect it just in the nick of time. Farrow. Delano Farrow, the former Preston Lions player. Spent the last 2 seasons for Preston. And we got a free kick coming up here for South Melbourne, and they're going to elect to go quickly here. Marko Jankovic. And South Melbourne, they're just going to retreat all the way back and all the way back out to Samuel Franco.
Yes, Stefan, it's been quite a very, very...
Substitution for South Melbourne FC coming off, number 23, Morgan Evans, coming on, number 11, Robert Harding.
Morgan Evans coming off and Harding coming on. And I'm not sure whether that's an injury or a tactical move by the coach. They certainly need something here, South Melbourne, because they've been pretty ordinary. Other than that one-header chance. Chance now. Playing a ball forward. The shot charged down and easily mopped up by Romic. Maybe would have been going out for a corner. Deep ball in now. And not a clearance. A chance now for Port Melbourne again. A chance gone begging. My Lord, should have been 3-0. Absolutely big miss there for the Sharks. And it was that man, Diaz, again, could have had his hat trick. Straight at Lopez. And a bad miss there defensively by South Melbourne. And it went over the top. And Diaz should have made it 3-0. And that really would have made it tough for the home side. They're really at 6s and 7s at the moment. Do not know what's hit them at the moment. Port Melbourne have been absolutely brilliant this evening. Harding coming on. And tend to think that maybe that was a tactical move. Chance now to go forward, and that's what's letting them down. That last ball seems to be either too late or too early, and it is making it very tough for any fluent play. They don't seem to be using the midfield enough. You've got players like Mel's, who is absolutely brilliant on the ball and doesn't seem to be getting much of it. Seem to be going one way only at the moment. Ball forward, and that kind of ball there, right on the player's chest. I mean, should have been on the deck. Jankovic. Ball played across Harding. Creating something. They have to. Lampard losing the ball. And now there's a chance again for Port Melbourne. Surely! And it's hit the crossbar. Oh my Lord, that was absolutely brilliant. What a try. And could that come back and haunt them? Really should have been 4-0 up, Port Melbourne. And the ball ricocheting off the bar. Stefan, it's absolutely running riot, Port Melbourne, at the moment.
I can't believe it. That was Listan Diaz again. Talk about him being a force to be reckoned with at the moment. The former Avondale player is making his presence felt up in the forward line at the moment. He's got Harvey Lopez in all sorts. He could have had 7 goals here so far, and it could have been, as you said, Arthur, a 4-0 lead Port Melbourne Sharks way. However, somehow just the woodwork managing to hold on that time. And it's still a 2-0 lead here at Lakeside. But very strong stuff here for Port Melbourne after the result they had last week, a 2-1 loss against Heidelberg. They're using every bit of momentum their way and in their favour at the moment here at Lakeside. Here's Leach inside the box. Going to try and cross it in and couldn't, and down goes the player of Port Melbourne inside the box. And a bit of unnecessary contact there by Robert Harding, giving a major, major bump to McCloskey. And he's going to feel a little bit winded after that one. But it's Robert Harding, the most recent substitution, making an impact here, and quite a physical one at that. Here's Painter Andrews. And the ball is going to be out of play. South Melbourne again to throw it in. So as we close in with about 5 minutes left to play here, and possibly with additional time looming on us, South Melbourne are going to more than likely go into the half and go into the break goalless against the bottom-sided Port Melbourne Sharks. Only 7 points they've had this season. Here's Pope on this near side. And the ball is going to be stopped by Farrow. Here's Farrow again, managing to clear it away. Here's Brown inside with Mells. And the ball just going to be cleared onto that far side. Mells again, making his presence felt in that midfield. Ball goes straight into the chest of McCloskey. The ball just going to be tussled in at the moment there in the midfield. They're not going to waste any time, South Melbourne. Just going to retreat back to their back line. Franco. His 4th game here tonight. Here's Mells again. Going to clear it onto the far side. Going to try cross it in. Here is South Melbourne. Again, the cross is just not working their way. Here's Leach inside. Pope tried to get it up. It'll be cleared away and headed away. It was Port Melbourne doing a great job defensively at stopping South Melbourne, I should say. And South Melbourne's offensive struggles just seem to be getting even worse. A corner coming up here for South Melbourne on this near side. It'll be George Mells to take it. Not going to waste any time. Off to Lampard. Lampard is in space. He's going to try and cross it in. South Melbourne again opting to go for the cross in. And a big boot from well beyond range it was. And South Melbourne again, another shot won't go their way.
Goal kick to Romick. Nice and long. Chance now for South Melbourne. And Romic does well. Gets off his line pretty quickly. South Melbourne having a chance cleared off the line there. But their chances have been few and far between. And good work there to get the ball back. Chance going forward. And once again, great defending by the Sharks. Throw-in given to Port Melbourne. Time probably not on the side of the home team. Probably a minute or so to go of normal time, and I don't think we've had too many extra minutes on the clock, so be good if they can somehow peg one back, but the more likely team to score at the moment is Port Melbourne. They've been absolutely outstanding. Chance to go forward, Lampard does well. Ball back to Lampard, crossing ball. And Romick does well. Ball away. Curling away, and Romic does well to pick it up and use his defensive lines. Tajevski plays the ball forward. Could there be one last chance for Port Melbourne? Ball played wide. And good defending in the end. 2 minutes. That's a bit of a surprise.
The fourth official has indicated there will be a minimum of 2 minutes of added time.
So, 2 minutes left on the clock. Can we see another goal for the Sharks? No, it's a goal kick. Stefan, it's been an absolutely brilliant performance by the Sharks at the moment.
At the moment, if the game was to win right now, it'll be happy days and ecstasy for Port Melbourne at the moment. They're putting in a performance that'll definitely be commended and celebrated by the outfit. South Melbourne, they're just in all sorts at the moment, struggling to really find an answer for for Port Melbourne, I should say. A lot of South Melbourne's attack has just been a lot of crosses that have failed to hit the teammate or the desired player that they've wanted to pass it to. And, well, it's been Port Melbourne that have capitalised almost every time. However, positive signs, if you are a South Melbourne fan, is that Robert Harding, who was substituted at the 35th around minute, he's doing an unbelievable job at the moment, creating somewhat of an opportunity out there. So watch out for him. He made the start last week, didn't make the start today, but was subbed in. Along too interesting, Maxi Mikola isn't in this time round, so a bit interesting there by Kahazdic. Chose not and elected not to start Maxi Mikola. All going to be cleared out, and South Melbourne just going to retreat all the way into the defence. Painter Andrews going to cross it all the way forwards. Leach rose up, and it'll be offsided here. And that will be half-time here at Lakeside Stadium. And very interesting stuff if you are a South Melbourne fan. However, if you are a Port Melbourne fan, this is a performance of the ages. The first half saw the first goal racked up within the first couple minutes of the game, led them to go up 1-0. And it was Liston Diaz who got the first one. He got the second as well, Arthur, and he's been on a tear ever since. Could have even had another additional 2, but that'll be halftime here at Lakeside Stadium. We'll be back with more after at halftime. Thank God I brought this puffer jacket.
Here,
Yeah.
gloves.
Yeah.
And I don't normally wear gloves at all.
I'm not a glove guy. I've never worn gloves.
Mate, my feet.
Yeah, same. How do you say your last name again? Acratides. Welcome back, everybody, to Lakeside Stadium here. Round 14 clash between South Melbourne and the Port Melbourne Sharks. Arthur Acratides and Stefan Georgic calling the action after what was a very, very eventful first half, especially for Port Melbourne. Not so much for South Melbourne, but Arthur, it's a little bit cold up here, but so far I think things are starting to heat up down there on the pitch, would you say?
No doubt. And I'll tell you what, this is going to be the most intriguing 45 minutes plus stoppage that we're going to see for the season, because here we have it. The bottom side is absolutely tormenting the home side, South Melbourne, something that you rarely see at this ground, let alone the team. Port Melbourne Sharks has been rejuvenated with their new coach and it's playing some very good football. And you tend to think to yourself, where has this quality of football been? But no doubt both these sides have been hit with injuries throughout the year and only now probably trying to get their way forward. And allowed to play on. Claims for a free kick, but ultimately Painter Andrew wasn't given a free kick. The wind really only just favouring South Melbourne. And this is a goal-scoring end normally for South Melbourne, Stefan, but they can certainly get a few goals at the moment because they're really struggling.
Well, South Melbourne, as you said, Arthur, this has been the goal-scoring end as well for Port Melbourne. This is where they scored in the previous half. Their 2 goals. Liston Diaz scored those 2 Perla goals. Could have been 4. In fact, one that just missed, went in straight directly into Harvey Lopez's chest, and the other going off the crossbar. That would have been a miraculous goal. Definitely goal of the week. But nevertheless, what can South Melbourne produce here on this side? And a potential was close, but not quite close enough. George Mells on that time did a superior job in the midfield in that first half and just couldn't quite manage to close it out that time. And Luka Romic only just managing to get his hands on that one. But what a start that would have been for South. As you said, Arthur, the goal-scoring end, and it would have added 3 for this evening's clash. Here's Leach. And back out to Inglese, the youngster. And Painter Andrews, one of the key defenders for this South Melbourne squad. Is the captain, Jankovic. Forwards, and it was Robert Harding in the back, just charming in inside the box, but it wasn't meant to be that time, and South Melbourne with the throw in. And Lampard to throw it in this time. So far, 1 substitution made in this game, that being Robert Harding. Subbed in that first half. What can South Melbourne do in this second half? This is almost a must-win clash for them, so A goal could possibly reignite their game, possibly. Franco. All just being tipped around here at the moment. Bernarda! Turnaround kick going to go well over the bar. But positive signs though, Arthur. South Melbourne definitely starting to take some more shots on goal.
And just some evidence there that what Bernarda can do, and Port Melbourne can ill afford to sit back on this 2-goal lead, because stuff like that can occur, and if one of them do go in, it could cause a bit of a trend going the other way, and Port Melbourne can ill afford to allow that to happen. South Melbourne are moving forward now. Chance to get the ball in the box. Twisting and turning. Great defending there. The shot! Straight to Romich. And ultimately, Mel's has lit it up. He's had 2 chances in the space of 2 minutes. You'd have to say Romich at the right place at the right time, both times. The first shot by Mel's, not much power behind it, but that one showed a little more bite. Port Melbourne now trying to dig their way through. There's a chance here. Ball played wide. The shot! And what a save by Lopez. My Lord, that was absolutely brilliant stuff by the goalkeeper. And again, it was Diaz who absolutely is tormenting the South Melbourne defence at the moment. Caught on the break. Stefan, it's really, really amazing to see how Port Melbourne are getting South Melbourne on the break at all times.
Well, your former squad, actually, Arthur, and Liston Diaz, the former Avondale player, is putting up a performance, and it's going to be tough to stop him. Here comes another opportunity again, and that one's just going to go over the head of Aiden Brown. But as you said, Liston Diaz, that's probably about his 5th or 6th shot here this evening, and he is absolutely, as you've used, Arthur, tormenting South Melbourne at the moment. Definitely keep an eye out for him, because he is just going to keep them coming at the moment. The way that he's playing, just getting ahead of the ball whenever that ball's being crossed, it's a sight to behold. Here's Inglese, the youngster. Ball's crossed in the back, and the header couldn't quite manage to go for Robert Harding. Robert Harding looking for his 3rd goal of the season, already on 2. What can he muster up this time? Romich going to send it well down. And it's McCloskey, who's been a little bit quiet here this evening. He was definitely up and about last week against Heidelberg. He's had a quiet one thus far here tonight. Painter Andrews. And he's going to be stopped by Riyad Muyet, the former North Sunshine Eagles player. And a close contest to that, and we've got a corner coming up here for South Melbourne. What can they muster up here? And as Arthur has said, this has been their scoring end. More shots have been falling, especially for George Mells. Look for George Mells to get involved here. Ball's going to be crossed in for a chance for South Melbourne. Not quite. Mells again in the back. Couldn't quite manage to get there in time. And the ball's just going to be tipped around and out of harm's way. And the ball retreated all the way back to Samuel Franco. But a close one there, Arthur. And if you're South Melbourne, you're loving the amount of shots that you're taking right now.
And you'd have to say there too, Stefan, that Romich made a great save going backwards. The youngsters had another good game today so far. And keeping South Melbourne at bay there in a crucial time of the game. We've been playing 8 minutes or so. And really, the young boys standing up tall. Still in play. The referee has not blown any whistle. Painter Andrews doing a lot of good work at the moment for South Melbourne. Twisting and turning. Ball into the box. In a dangerous position, and the shot's gone begging. And there I gave him a bit of a moz there, Painter Andrews. After telling you how good he's been playing in this second half, he goes and takes a shot like that, reaching for the sky, basically. In the backdrop here. And not a good goal kick taken. Chance now for South Melbourne to get it back into the box. Deep ball, headed away. Oh, there's dangerous play there. And not a good... don't know if there was malice in that, but the head was down, and certain free kick there for South Melbourne. And I've got to say, Riyad Moyed has been absolutely brilliant today. And Oliver Jankovski also doing a really good job for Port Melbourne. Now this is a chance that needs to work for South Melbourne. They really need to get something from this positive forward thrust that they're pushing forward in. And been a lot better in these first 5 minutes of the second half than they have been, even though Port Melbourne has had the better chance. They're reminded that Port Melbourne on the break are very, very much a big danger. And Diaz certainly is, at the moment, the best on ground in my eyes. I'd even say the young Romic has been pretty good too. Over the ball now. Lampard and Mells. Shot, and that's just wide by Mells. And an inch more, couple inches more to the goalkeeper's right, and that would have been 2-1. He was definitely beaten there. And, at the moment, Mells is doing everything he can to try and subtract this lead from the Sharks. Quick throw taken, and it's going to go all the way out for a goal kick.
So positive signs for South Melbourne. The more shots are being taken, they just need one to go in the netting, and well, possibly a couple more could follow. Ball going to be booted long. Nobody home that time for Port Melbourne. So substitution coming in here
for South Melbourne. Coming off number 24, Noel Bernardo. Coming on number 13, Luca Verso.
And Luca Verso coming in here into this game. He's going to be one to watch. And already South Melbourne in the early stages of this second half, they've definitely put their mark thus far. A lot of the possession has been South Melbourne's, and it has been in their favour compared to Port Melbourne this time round. In the first half, it was all Port Melbourne. This time, though, all South Melbourne. Must be on this right-hand side of the pitch. Ball's up. It's being tripped around at the moment. Pope. Franco along too with Farrow. Alessandrados working its way back off to Dib on that far side. Can't quite get any breathing space whatsoever. The ball being tipped around everywhere at the moment. Port Melbourne, though, only managing to walk away with it only just. Here's Anthony Laban going to clear it off to Delano Farrow, the former Preston Lions player. Back off to McCloskey. Who's had a quiet game thus far. Going to cross it in. Not going to be good enough. Here's Leban again. Opportunity is mounting here for Port Melbourne, and they're just going to push back a little bit. Regroup, I should say. And Muyet, former North Sunshine Eagles player, is going to work it back off and around from near side to far side. And it'll be Jordan Lampard to header that one away. So Tide just starting to turn here and switch. Port Melbourne getting a lot more possession of the ball. Getting some attacking opportunities here in this one. It's a cold one here tonight at Lakeside Stadium. It was earlier on though. Earlier today it was South Melbourne women's side taking on FC Bulleen Lions. That one ended up in a 2-2 draw for the South Melbourne women's and the FC Bulleen Lions squad. The ball going to be crossed in straight into Harvey Lopez's hands. So a good showing here though for the South Melbourne women's, along too with FC Bulleen Lions squads, but the men's squad just struggling in their season thus far. Same can't be said though for the women's. Right up top on their retrospective competition, Samuel Franco. At the moment, we've got another game going on between Dandenong City and St Albans. Dandenong City leading that game 3-1. And it was a 3-1 win, I believe. And instead, here we got South Melbourne again charging in, and no penalty called that time.
Yeah, certainly just shoulder to shoulder there. And St Albans opening the score there with Platt and Campbell own goal, along with Kuba and Sesnik finishing it off for Dandenong City. Nick Tolios's team doing quite well. Now South Melbourne, a chance. Oh, just overran the ball. Can't get the shot on goal here. Not being allowed to get the shot on goal. And in the end, again, some super defending there. And Romick does well to swallow up that cross. Just having a bit of difficulty getting the ball past that halfway line. Chance to another substitution, this time for Port Melbourne. And Markovski coming on.
Substitution for Port Melbourne coming off. Number 9, Aiden Brown coming on. Number 20, Josh Markovski.
Josh Markovski scoring against Altona Magic the other week. And then Liston Diaz scoring a double coming on for him at half-time. Now you've got both of them on the park. No doubt we'll be trying to do some work there going forward. The deep ball into the box. This has been a great performance by Port Melbourne Sharks. Still have a good slab of 28 minutes of normal time to go. And we know what can happen in that time. And to make it even better would be another goal to really make it tough for the home side. The coach not at the moment being too concerned. Max Gajdowski. He can't ask for more than what he's got at the moment from his troops. On the other hand, Sinisa Kohezic wanting more from his troops because they're really struggling to really get the ball on target. Ball played all the way to Lopez. And Lopez does well. Pushes it wide. Chance to go forward again, but thwarted there again by the Sharks. And a chance here. Digging their way forward. Markovski. Can he get a shot on goal? And it's charged down. And the power of the shot in the end took the sting out of it. And a chance now for South Melbourne. Good work there. And that could be... No, the referee has given a corner. No, a goal kick. Goal kick. Claims for a penalty. There's definitely no chance that was a penalty.
A close one, but no penalty called that time. There's been a couple that have been close, especially on that exact spot that incident occurred just then. But instead, it's Romic who gave it a boot. Tried to go to the direction of Joshua Markovski, the former Altona Magic player. Now signed with Port Melbourne at the beginning of the season. It's actually known as a dynamic striker. And here might come an opportunity for South Melbourne, but it was no good that time. And the more shots are starting to fall, South Melbourne definitely looking to have etched themselves into this game. Not quite on the scoreboard, but the way that they're playing. And Delano Faro claiming that free kick that time, being tripped up by Lucas Inglese. So we've got a free kick coming up here for Port Melbourne. Not too many free kicks have occurred here this evening here at Lakeside. Quite a few offsides were called in that first half, all by Liston Diaz, who was actually subbed off at the commencement of this second half. Didn't start this half. Started, though, that first half in what was a blistering performance from him. He scored both goals for Port Melbourne. Should have had 4, as we mentioned, Arthur, with the amount that he's taken. And here we got an opportunity here for Joshua Markovski, the former Altona Magic player. He could have kept going, but elected not to. He's going to position it out wide for Dib. An interesting choice there by Joshua Markovski, electing not to go and have a shot on goal. Not sure what that was all about. Haven't really seen that before, have I?
Really, we know he can strike a ball too. I mean, I saw a video the other day of training, pinned one top corner, and so there's no doubt in my mind he probably should have gone a little further and then had a strike and could have caused a lot of problems for Lopez. But it wasn't to be, and we are still here at Lakeside with 67 minutes gone. 2-0 to the good other visitors. Chance here. Twisting and turning. Again, the defensive lines of Port Melbourne have been absolutely brilliant. Farrow plays it back. And some absolute class there by Leben. Chance now. Pushing forward. The shot really wasteful there. Should have done a lot better with that. Alessandrados trying to make his mark on the game. Played forward. Again, good defending. The chill here at Bob Jones Stadium. And the problem is here, as time ticks away, it is getting tougher for the home side to get something from this game. We must commend the Sharks. They're doing everything they can to try and save this game. And a chance now for Port Melbourne. Farrow plays it forward. Markovsky. And the 1-2 was really wasteful there. And he could have gotten the 1-2 had he gotten it on target there. Stefan, I think it would have been curtains for South Melbourne.
It definitely would have, but the way that things are going right now, it looks to be slowly fading here for South Melbourne. Port Melbourne really set them up beautifully in that first half, and a shot by Painter Andrews well outside the box. And Luka Romic doing a fantastic job here this evening at almost stopping every opportunity that is coming in from South Melbourne. But as I was saying before, Port Melbourne, they set themselves up beautifully in that first half. And it's showing the scoreboard pressure starting to get a little bit too much for South Melbourne. And that's all thanks to their star player, the former Avondale player in Liston Diaz. He scored 5 goals so far this season, 2 of which have come here tonight. Came into this game with 3. He's going to be ending his game with 5. He's going to be the leading goal scorer for Port Melbourne. Here's Joshua Markovsky, who a couple plays ago elected not to take a shot. Very interesting, though, as Arthur said, he saw him absolutely lace one in the top of the corner in training, so a bit interesting that he elected not to. But anyway, here's Painter Andrews again. Just marching forwards here. Here's Durso. And he's going to be stopped in his tracks by Owen McCloskey. Owen McCloskey, who was a former Melbourne Victory Youth Academy player. He's played 11 games so far for the Port Melbourne Sharks outfit this season. So we've got a corner coming up here for South Melbourne here on this near side. On the scoring end of the pitch, it has been tonight. Ball's up. It was towards the back of the pack, but instead this time they'll be trading corners from the near side to the far side. Right next to that heritage-listed grandstand. As Arthur was telling me about, learning so much here tonight with you, Arthur. I've learnt a whole heap here from the Oceania Club of the Century. So a corner coming up here for South Melbourne. Yet to get on the scoreboard here tonight, and they'd love to get on the scoreboard, especially to get some hope instilled back within the home fans here. But instead we've got a substitution coming into this game. And it's Nicholas, that's Maker. And it was Marko Jankovic, who nearly got a header, but it was still tipped away inside, and Maker's actually checked in for Port Melbourne. And another corner coming up here for South Melbourne. Could third time be a chance here? Jordan Lampard. There's a close one there from Marko Jankovic, the captain. Third time's a charm here for South Melbourne. Can it go in? Ball's up in the air, and it's Luka Romic again doing a phenomenal job like he has all evening, Arthur. He's definitely been probably one of their most outstanding players here this evening.
And like I said, he's close to best on ground at the moment. His second half's been impeccable. He's held South Melbourne at bay. South Melbourne hitting the crossbar there from that corner. And then him doing some good work now, holding them at bay. When the pressure is on, and I'm got to say, I've seen a lot of the games Port Melbourne have played this year. And this game's been one of the better ones I've seen him play. Free kick there to South Melbourne. Yes, Stefan, I've got to tell you, some of the stories I could tell you here as a youngster. I used to come here and watch South Melbourne play, the football AFL South Melbourne, and we used to go in the dressing rooms and drink what was those days called sustagen, not Gatorade. It was phenomenal stuff, a great memory as Port Melbourne now get the ball curled into the box, headed away. Not too far though, and luckily informed there was the defender. Got a call for it, and in the end, out for a throw-in. Could be a yellow card now given to the coach. Yeah. And Sinisha Gohazic getting a yellow card from the referee, who really, I think, has done a good job today. He's let the game flow. Still ball played away. Romage, not the greatest of clearances. And in the end, the throw-in to be given.
Two substitutions are also just awaiting here for South Melbourne to come into this game, so keep an eye out for them. Some fresh legs coming in. And here they come.
Double substitution for South Melbourne FC coming off. Charlie Leach and Jack Pope coming on. Campbell Dovison and Cooper Head.
So Cooper Head and Campbell Dovison coming into this game for South Melbourne. What can they do for South Melbourne? Some fresh legs and the mercenaries for Kahazdic. Head already making a mark already. Look at Romic again, making a save when it means most, and not allowing South Melbourne any sniff of a potential goal. As we close into about 15 minutes to go here at Lakeside Stadium. It's been Port Melbourne Sharks from the get-go here tonight. And speaking of Port Melbourne, here they come again. A free kick going their way. And South Melbourne not wasting any time. I should say Port Melbourne Sharks not wasting any time with that free kick. Here's Farrow. Goes down. Referee choosing not to whistle it. Here's Makeup. There's a shot by Leban. It was going in the bottom right corner on that far side of the goalpost, but just wasn't meant to be that time. And Anthony Leban, who's had a quiet night here tonight, he was almost everywhere in their clash last week, along too with Owen McClose. They've both had quiet nights here for Port Melbourne compared to last week. They were both up and about against Heidelberg in that 2-1 loss, but taking a shot there and it just was a little bit off target. Here's Painter Andrews. Going to go forwards to Durso. Durso, what can he do? Goes to his right, and it's McClose. As I was just speaking of him, speak of the devil, say his name and he appears. He's going to boot that one away, and a corner coming up here for South Melbourne. Could this one be the opportunity that they need? They've had a bunch of opportunities in this second half to try and get themselves on the scoreboard, but just hasn't quite been their night here tonight. What could this corner be? It's a short one. Lampard going to cross it in this time. Headed away again. Bochvinovski on that far side. Mells to cross it in. Lampard in the back, going to try and cross it in. Couldn't quite get that one to go inside there, and nothing that South Melbourne can do is going their way at the moment. Here's Cooper Head. Throw it in. Went to Franco. And now South Melbourne just going to slow down the tempo of this ball game at the moment in their favour. a whole mirage of shots that South Melbourne are taking on this right-hand side of your screen. Just nothing managing to go their way. If they could walk away with a goal, that wouldn't quite do justice for the amount of shots that they're taking. Jankovic, the captain. Ball going to be crossed in for South Melbourne. Could this be a shot and a chance here for South Melbourne that they need? Dovison couldn't quite manage to get there, and Luka Romic again doing an unbelievable job in goal. In my opinion, Arthur, I don't know about you, but he's been the man of the match for me.
Well, he's certainly stand tall there. I think it was cleared by one of the defenders, that off the line. So, chance now. And miss-kicking the ball completely. The shot over the bar. And a corner again. And let's... another corner for South Melbourne. And they're doing everything they can, the Sharks, to keep them out. Chance. Good save, Romic. Lampard's pile driver. Romic, it seemed like almost went through his fingertips, but he did enough to get it out. Curling again. The header. Over the bar. No direction in that header. And the Sharks are holding on for dear life here. 10 minutes left. And probably 3 or 4 of extra. Can they do it and lift themselves off the bottom of the ladder with a victory here today? I know my friend Dario Serra will be absolutely ecstatic if they do that. And no doubt I've got friends from both sides here. And long-time friends at that. Some great memories for both teams. For no doubt now, my allegiance here is really with Football Victoria and commentating a great game, I must say. Not a good clearance. Deep in the box, cleared away. Pushed to safety again now. I must say, bringing in Maker as a defensive midfielder or defender is a great idea by mate Max Gajdowski. Not a good clearance there. South Melbourne's trying hard, and you can't ask for more. Still in play. Deep back post ball. Headed away, and it's a goal kick. Maybe given offside, I'm not too sure, but either way, it's Luka Romic's ball. Time is ticking away. Stefan, what do you think?
Well, I think so far at the moment, if you were to look at this game right now without the scoreline, you'd expect South Melbourne to be leading. However, where was this in the first half? I'm not so sure. This is a different South Melbourne squad that we're seeing here in this second half. A fire within the belly has definitely been ignited. It just wasn't ignited at the start of the game. They were very, very stagnant and quiet, very passive with the way that they were playing. It was the poor Melbourne Sharks almost taking every opportunity that came their way. This scoreline of 2-0 realistically should be 4-0 with the amount of shots that Liston Diaz took. 2 of which went in. Those are the first 2 that he took. One that only went off the crossbar, and the other that went straight into the body of Harvey Lopez, the former Avondale player. Ended up getting 4 goals last season for the outfit. He's got 5 goals so far this season. And boy, is he doing it in convincing style. We're at the halfway mark of this season. And as all the teams are going to play each other now one more time. South Melbourne played Port Melbourne all the way back in round 1. They got the 1-0 victory, and the way that things stand, it could be Port Melbourne walking away with their revenge. A 2-0 win could be on the horizon for them. Over next week, South Melbourne will play the Melbourne Knights. That game, that'll be at Tomset Stadium at 7:30 p.m. next Friday night. And then Port Melbourne Sharks, they'll play Avondale FC next Friday at 8:15 at JL Murphy Reserve. Ball will be crossed in for South Melbourne, and again another opportunity just slipping through their fingers. This is the 28th meeting between these two sides. South Melbourne actually leads the head-to-head 16 wins to 8. 3 of those 28 meetings have ended up in draws, though. South Melbourne, they're on a 5-game winning streak since 2022 against Port Melbourne. By the way that things stand, that 5-game winning streak will be snapped here tonight if South Melbourne can't make anything happen within the next 4 or so minutes. Here's another opportunity for Port Melbourne. Maker takes a shot, denied by Samuel Franco. Could Farrow have something to say about that? Another one denied. The shots are going galore at the moment here. And another opportunity, a Maker and Port Melbourne doing everything they can to try and knock a third one in. But instead it won't be good, and we've got a player actually cramping here for Port Melbourne. Very exciting sequence of play here though, Arthur. What did you make of that?
I'll tell you what, it's been very, very exciting. Especially, both teams have done quite well this half. It's been a really good game to commentate, I must say. Stefan, with yourself, and another defender brought on for Port Melbourne, Daniel Serra, left footer, youngster, former North Geelong player. Good little nifty winger, and ball charged down, still swung in. And there's a good work by him. Sarah's done well. Ball pushed in. The shot! And could he have come on and almost sealed the deal? 86 minutes we've been playing. And they're saying time ticking away. Chance now for South Melbourne, offside given, and I think that's correct. And really can't complain about that. And Romick just taking his time. It's probably something special here today for the Sharks. A chance now, and no strength in that shot. Lopez knows there's not much time to go. The long kick. And Maker now. Done well. And the throw into South Melbourne. Andrews pushes the ball all the way back. Really, it has to be now or never now for South Melbourne. They haven't got time. Port Melbourne have done everything right today. They've defended as one. And in the end, they've been absolutely brilliant. Max Gajdowski cannot be happier, no doubt. But there is a little time left. What can South Melbourne do here? Ball into the box, and that could be a corner. No, it's given a goal kick.
The way that things stand, Arthur, this nightmare of a season that South Melbourne are having could only be getting worse at the moment. And time is not on their side whatsoever. But as you said, Arthur, this has been an outstanding performance from the bottom of the table, Port Melbourne Sharks. They've done almost everything right here tonight. This scoreline isn't doing justice for the way that they've played here tonight. Could have had more goals on the score sheet, but I'm sure they'll settle with 2 and walk away with a win here this evening. Luka Romic, who's been sensational here tonight, doing an unbelievable job. Kind of Harvey Lopez-esque performance here. It's been a quiet night, though, for Harvey Lopez in this second half. Not many shots going for Port Melbourne. He was in all sorts in that first half. He did have one good save, as Arthur's reminding me here, after that incredible sequence of plays that happened. But Luka Romic, in my mind, a phenomenal performance from him, stopping almost everything that's been coming his way. Painter Andrews working it back out. Cooper Head will give it a boot. Inglese. Mouillet, the former North Sunshine Eagles player, just managing to keep it alive. Dib. Could this be one more roll of the dice for South Melbourne? Not quite. We've got players down at the moment for Port Melbourne. Nicholas Dib. He was down. He's popped right back up, though, here. So as we get closer to the completion of full time, we're going to have added time here at Lakeside Stadium. And 4 minutes of additional time look to be added by our officials. But so far, though, this tonight, Arthur, has been Port Melbourne's night.
Absolutely Port Melbourne's night. And can they put the icing on the cake here? Ball across goal. Markovsky. And Leban's shot going wide. Almost causing some drama there. Time ticking away. 4 minutes of extra time, and we're counting it down now. Is there any time left here for South Melbourne? Can't commend the defensive display of Port Melbourne Sharks enough. Has been absolutely brilliant. And that man there, Mayet, has been pretty much one of the best players on the park as well. You know, it's a phenomenal display by him. And here we go, trying to push forward again, Port Melbourne. And smartly trying to extend their way through. Maker trying the through ball there, which didn't work. And there's a good effort there by Luca Durso. He's done okay since he's come on. Been useful. And must say, it's pretty much just about done here, Stefan. I mean, look, Port Melbourne has deserved this. South Melbourne have given us a lot more this half, but Port Melbourne has defended like champions.
This second half has been virtually a defensive performance of a lifetime that Port Melbourne Sharks would love to see when they go back and rewatch this and restudy it. The way that they've played defensively, managing to stop every single opportunity that South Melbourne have tried to do. It's been sensational. An opportunity here for South Melbourne late. Not quite going that way. But as you said, it has been Port Melbourne Sharks from the get-go. And could this be another one? And very, very close there. Could have been a late one for South Melbourne. But not quite there on that occasion. And Luka Romic, he's been a superstar here as I mentioned a little bit earlier, a almost Harvey Lopez-like performance here tonight. He's put the youngster. He'll definitely be one happy along to with the entire Port Melbourne Sharks squad. Andrews looking possibly for one more roll of the dice here for South Melbourne. Will be thrown in. Sure, not too long to go here until the whistle is blown at the completion. Inglese with a shot. His body was leaning back. Not too sure how he got that much power on that ball. Here comes Markovski. And the ball will be cleared back off to Harvey Lopez. We're just being booted in and around at the moment here. Lakeside Stadium almost being shut down at the moment here by the Port Melbourne Sharks. Another opportunity going inside. Durso was in there. Here's Dovison with a shot, and Luka Romic again, the superstar player, making another superstar save, and that is full time. Port Melbourne Sharks do the unthinkable. The bottom of the table side get a very convincing 2-0 victory over South Melbourne. And the nightmare goes from bad to even worse for South Melbourne. Their season, if you couldn't think it could get any worse, it's only just gone and gotten even worse. 2 defeats in a row here at home. Last week, a 2-1 defeat to their rivals, the Oakley Cannons. And this time out, Port Melbourne Sharks, regardless of everything and all the troubles that South Melbourne have gone through, tonight was their night, Arthur.
Phenomenal performance, and I take my hat off to each and every one of them. South Melbourne really gave it all they had in that second half and really played a lot more positive, but the defensive display from Port Melbourne in that second half, you'd have to say, where has that been all season? You know, McCloskey, Moyet, Yankolovsky, you know, just absolutely brilliant. And as you said, yeah, probably have to agree with you. Luka Romic, probably the player of the game, along with Liston Diaz. And Port Melbourne, take your hat off to them. A 2-0 victory here today at Bob Janes Stadium, which is absolutely distraught at the moment. There was some boos after the final whistle for the loss and the disgust of losing again at home. And you must say, well done, Port Melbourne Sharks. Congratulations. And Max Gajdowski, a great first up victory for him for Port Melbourne. Thank you for joining us. Stefan and myself here at Lakeside Oval. We'll see you next week for some more action in the Football Victoria show.